I remember that fateful evening when the sky was painted with hues of crimson and gold, and an unsettling chill hung in the air. I set out to check on our pregnant sheep, a routine task that had now become tinged with an inexplicable sense of unease. As I drove towards the grazing fields, a figure atop a distant mountain caught my eye. It crouched, unmoving, its form silhouetted against the dying light. A sense of dread crept over me as I watched, feeling the weight of its gaze upon me. Suddenly, a commotion drew my attention. A large, imposing wolf charging towards me from a distance. Instinctively, I grabbed my rifle and fired, aiming to protect the livestock. But as I closed in, there was no sign of the wolf. Confusion gnawed at me as I scoured the surroundings, searching for any trace of the predator. A sense of dread settled in, signaling that something sinister was afoot. Then, I heard it. The heartbreaking cries of our pregnant sheep, a sound that pierced through the evening stillness. With a rush of panic, I sprinted towards the source of the distress, my heart pounding in my chest. As I reached the spot, my worst fears were realized. The sheep was gone, leaving behind only scattered signs of a violent struggle. Horror washed over me as I grappled with the realization that something malevolent had taken our precious animal. The sinking feeling in my gut urged me to return home, to protect my wife from the encroaching darkness that now tainted our ranch. Every step was heavy with dread, my mind racing with the inexplicable events that had unfolded. Reaching the safety of our home, I found my wife, her face etched with concern and worry. I struggled to convey the terror that had gripped me, the sense of an unseen malevolence looming over our land. The events of that night remained an unsolved mystery, a chilling reminder that there are forces beyond comprehension lurking in the shadows. The ranch that was once our haven had transformed into a place of uncertainty and fear, leaving us haunted by the inexplicable and the unexplained. I've carried this tale like a weight upon my soul, a nightmarish experience that still sends shivers down my spine. A chilling encounter with a skinwalker. It happened during one of my visits to a remote Navajo reservation in the desolate lands of the American Southwest. The legends of skinwalkers had always intrigued me, a fascination born from curiosity and a desire to understand the unknown. As dusk descended, I found myself wandering through the isolated terrain, surrounded by the rugged beauty of the desert. The air was heavy with an unsettling silence, and a sense of unease settled in as the sun dipped below the horizon. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows, a solitary, cloaked silhouette that moved with an uncanny grace. My heart quickened its pace as I watched the figure draw closer, a primal instinct warning me of an impending danger. The closer it came, the more I realized that something was dreadfully wrong. Its movements were unnatural, its gait twisted and eerie. Its eyes held a haunting glint, reflecting a darkness that defied rationality. In a state of inexplicable fear, I attempted to retreat, but it was as though the very air had thickened around me, restraining my movements. The figure drew closer, its features contorting and shifting with an unholy fluidity. A guttural voice, echoing with an otherworldly resonance, pierced the silence, uttering words that sent chills down my spine. My mind reeled with a primal terror, as though the fabric of reality itself had been torn asunder. In that horrifying moment, I realized I was facing a skinwalker, a being that defied logic, a malevolent force that had taken on a grotesque facade to torment and terrify. I fled, my heart pounding with each frantic step, the memory of that encounter burning like a brand in my mind. The haunting whispers of that night continued to echo in my dreams, a constant reminder of the inexplicable horrors that lurk within the unknown. To this day, I carry the weight of that encounter, a reminder that some mysteries are better left untouched, that there are entities beyond comprehension that haunt the fringes of our reality, a chilling testament to the existence of forces that defy explanation. The memory of that night still haunts me, etched into my mind like a nightmare that refuses to fade, a bone-chilling encounter with the malevolent force of a skinwalker. My hunting partner and I had ventured deep into the remote mountains, seeking game among the rugged terrain. The air was crisp, filled with the scent of pine and anticipation as we followed the trail of our prey. But the tranquility of the woods was shattered by a series of unnerving sounds, an unnatural cacophony that echoed through the valleys. Animals scattered in a panicked frenzy, fleeing from an unseen terror that gripped the heart of the forest. We exchanged uneasy glances, our instincts warning us of the danger lurking in the shadows. Ignoring the rising sense of foreboding, we pressed on, following the unnerving sounds that seemed to call to us from the depths of the woods. As we approached a clearing, a bone-chilling sight awaited us. A figure hunched over a slain deer, its form twisted and grotesque. A sense of dread seized us as the figure slowly turned towards us, its eyes gleaming with an unholy hunger. Before we could react, it pounced with unnatural speed, its inhuman form lashing out with ferocity. My partner bore the brunt of the attack, the skinwalker's savage claws tearing through flesh and bone. Terrified and desperate, I fled in a blind panic, racing back to our cabin, where the rest of our friends were waiting. Fear coursed through me as I heard the skinwalker's menacing howls and the thunderous crash of trees being torn apart. Reaching the safety of the cabin, I relayed the nightmarish encounter to my friends, our hearts gripped with horror and uncertainty. Determined to defend ourselves, we armed ourselves with our rifles, trembling with a mix of fear and resolve. From the cabin, we saw it, a nightmarish figure tearing through the woods, leaving destruction in its wake. With shaking hands, we aimed our weapons at the skinwalker, ready to defend ourselves against the ancient malevolence that had descended upon us. As we fired our guns, the skinwalker vanished into the depths of the woods, leaving behind a trail of shattered trees and haunting echoes. The adrenaline-fueled terror lingered, a chilling reminder that some horrors defy explanation and lurk in the darkest corners of the world, a testament to the relentless and malevolent force of the skinwalker. I remember that night vividly, as clear as the stars that pierced the desert sky. A bone-chilling encounter with the malevolent force of a skinwalker. My father and I had ventured deep into the desolate expanse of the desert, seeking solitude under the starlit canopy. The night was alive with the haunting whispers of the wind, and as the flames crackled in our campfire, We shared stories of the Wendigo and the Skinwalker, the legends that had long haunted these lands. The tales grew more eerie as the darkness deepened around us. We spoke of the dangers, the warnings passed down through generations, and the eerie presence of these ancient entities that stalked the night. And then, as if the stories had summoned the darkness itself, a figure emerged from the depths of the desert. It approached us with an eerie silence, a haunting silhouette against the flickering flames. The air grew thick with an inexplicable dread, a warning etched into the very fabric of my being. The figure sat by our campfire, its presence ominous and unsettling. My father and I exchanged nervous glances, a silent understanding that something was horribly wrong. As we watched in terror, the figure transformed before our eyes, an unnatural contortion of limbs and features, twisting into a monstrous visage. With a blood-curdling howl, the Skinwalker lunged at us, its eyes ablaze with a malevolent hunger. Panic surged through me as I scrambled to grab our belongings, to flee from the relentless horror that had descended upon us. The Skinwalker's ferocity was like nothing I'd ever seen, its movements swift and unholy, fueled by an insatiable thirst for blood. It clawed and snarled, its inhuman form a grotesque nightmare come to life. My father and I fought for our lives, our screams lost in the desolate silence of the night. Adrenaline surged through me as I desperately sought a way to fend off the relentless assault. But the Skinwalker's strength was overwhelming. In a moment of sheer terror, I saw my father fall, the Skinwalker's savage claws tearing through flesh. With a heart filled with horror and desperation, I fled into the darkness, the Skinwalker's haunting howls echoing behind me. I ran until exhaustion consumed me, haunted by the memory of that harrowing night and the realization that the legends were not merely tales spun to frighten, but a chilling reality lurking in the desolate depths of the desert. A reminder that in the darkest corners of the world, ancient and malevolent entities can manifest with a terrifying and relentless ferocity.